Welcome to Sports Tonight here on this Football Friday and baseball too. Can't forget baseball. Braves are going to be in action this weekend too, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm sports producer Scott Pennyman here with...
What's up? Long time no see.
Brett
Gilbert.
It's been a long time.
I know. I was just about to say, it's been months, and I got to tell you something. I was looking over here the other night, and I saw Bailey Burmaster and Lee Smith doing this, and they didn't have them in boxes, how me and you are right now. They're having to stand next to each other, and I was terrified that that was going to be me and you, because this at least gives me the illusion of height, and that would all be lost if I was, like, having to stand next to you.
Well, how tall are you really, Brett?
Really? 5'8", 5'9" on a good day.
Well, it's not
I have a lot of good days.
Well, it's not so much of a difference because I'm 5'10" anyway.
Are you 5'10"?
I'm only 5'10". When most people look at me for some reason, they think I'm like 6 feet tall.
I thought you were 6 feet. I guess you have the illusion of being taller.
Yeah, everyone seems to think so. Like, everyone I cross, they go, "You're only 5'10". I'm like, excuse me, that's average height. Okay.
No. 5'8's average. Because if 5'10", yes, because if 5'10" is average, that means I'm below average, and I'm not having that. So 5'8" is average.
I was gonna say you have a horse in the race right there, so that's probably the reason why you didn't mind, that being considered the average height. Hey, so you know what? Let's first step into our Football Friday weekend here with some NFL football. We got the two teams right now probably going in a little bit different directions here, right? We got the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons against the 2-2 Texans. However, these seems like to be a very different 2-2 when you look at these two teams, because
I'd agree with that.
The Falcons are coming off 2 straight losses. They have a lot of questions about the quarterback, Desmond Ridder, a lot of questions nationally, maybe trying to figure out if he's the guy. And then you have the Houston Texans, who they've been rolling the last couple games. I mean, they blew out the Steelers last week.
Yeah.
They handled the Jaguars. They're 2-2. Yep. Their rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud, is putting up record passing numbers. I mean,
he looks like the real deal. He looks like he should have been the #1 overall pick, not Bryce Young.
I would say so. So coming into this game, Brett, well, I won't ask you for your predictions, but what are you looking for in this game?
I mean, with any Atlanta Falcons game, it's going to come down to, can they run the ball? Yeah. I mean, we know that's Arthur Smith's game plan. It's been his game plan the entire time he's been here, especially now with Bijan back there. But I think what's interesting about this one is I saw this number earlier today, and it kind of surprised me. Scott, did you know the Texans are arguably the second best pass rushing defense in the NFL?
Look at Brett coming on here prepared, man. I didn't know that. I know Will Anderson, the rookie from Alabama, has had a pretty good start to the season. But that's amazing for a team right now. I guess that's the D'Amico Ryans influence, huh?
Yeah, so I was looking at the numbers, and here I wrote them down. You know, I always got my handy-dandy notebook when I come on here.
Nobody's more prepared than Brett, man.
The Texans' pass rush, their win rate, so the percentage of times they try to rush the passer and win, is the second in all of the NFL. Wow. And what's scary about that, if you're a Falcons fan, is the Falcons' pass blocking win rate is 30th in the NFL.
That's
so basically, what I'm saying is you have a very, very good, maybe under the radar, but very good on paper Texans pass rush going up against a not great pass blocking line for the Falcons. So it might be even harder to throw than we saw last week in London with Desmond Ridder, which felt impossible at times. Yeah. So running the ball is going to be absolutely imperative for the Falcons to have any offensive success.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really rough for the Falcons' last couple games as far as on the offensive side, and of course has brought questions into whether Desmond Ridder is the guy long-term for the Falcons. And I knew at some point this season we would get those questions.
Just because, I think we all did.
Right, I mean, just because we knew it wouldn't be a smooth ride. The first couple games, even though they won, I would say the second game of the season, Ridder looked more like a professional quarterback. They had to pass the ball to get back into that game.
Yes, I would agree. I think week 2 was his best game of the season. He actually made some impressive throws. Not a lot, but he did enough to win that game.
Yeah, and then 3 of the 4 this year, it looked more like, it almost seems like they're protecting him. They're not really letting him drive the ball down the field, and therefore your 2 most important offensive weapons, at least in the passing game, Kyle Pitts and Drake London, have pretty much been rendered useless. And I think that's where most of the frustration comes from Falcons fans, because you got these first-round picks in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. They're supposed to be having breakout seasons. I mean, this is Pitts' 3rd season. This is Drake London's second season. I think a breakout season from each one of those guys was expected, but I think bottom line, fans don't really feel if they have the quarterback to be able to make those guys have breakout seasons.
Because they don't. I mean, they don't. Like, let's be honest. I know all the fans are clamoring for Taylor Heineke, and I've seen some people push back to that, saying, you know, like, you guys think Taylor Heineke's Tom Brady. I don't think anyone thinks that.
No.
Maybe a few people are delusional enough to think that, but we have seen Taylor Heineke put an offense on his back at times and move the ball. Is he going to throw a lot of picks doing it? Yeah. Is he going to be, you know, even a top half of the league quarterback? Probably not. But he's going to be able to make throws when it feels like a constant uphill battle for Desmond Ridder to move the chains with his arm. And I just don't know. I'm not saying anything new here. I mean, everyone says this, but I just don't know how you win in today's NFL without a guy behind center that can do that.
And that's the problem. I mean, I think that's the problem I saw in training camp, because I just never really saw Desmond Ridder take a hold of that offense, even when we were watching practice, take a hold of that offense and win with his arm, right? I mean, he can make the shorter throws, but it just seems like everything's a dink and dunk. Everything's a 6 to 7 yard check down. And like you said, it's really hard in the National Football League to constantly sustain 17, 18 play drives and be able to end those in touchdowns. I mean, it's really hard, right?
Yeah.
You need some chunk plays, and they don't really have a chunk play type offense. And look, let me be clear. I don't know if it's Arthur Smith. I don't know if it's Dave Ragone, the offensive coordinator. That's maybe, you know, maybe they got the kid gloves on Desmond a little bit. I don't know, but I think it's frustrating for the fans. It's kind of puzzling nationally because, like I say, there are games here where you have Drake London got one target, a couple targets. I mean,
hey, Arthur said he doesn't care.
well, of course he does. Okay.
Arthur says he doesn't care. I don't buy that for a second. If I'm a second-year wide receiver trying to win and trying to put my mark on the league, earn a second contract, I care.
Yeah,
I want more than one target, and I want it to be more than 8 yards down the field.
Exactly. I mean, I think he cares. I think, well, okay, so I don't think coaches necessarily care about stats, right? I mean, those are things.
Coaches don't know.
Right, because those are things players care about, because come contract time, players are going to bring up their numbers and their stats, how many catches they have, how many touchdowns they have. So, yeah, they're more important to the individual than they are the coaching staff, right? But you have to keep your best players happy because – you know, that's just for a more content offense. And look, it's in the best interest of the team's offense to get the ball to some of those playmakers because, look, Bijan Robinson, excellent player, explosive back in the backfield. But I think people around the league are just looking at this offense and they're going, you have Drake London, who broke rookie records as a wide receiver. I think Kyle Pitts, who caught a bunch of balls as a rookie. And you have Bijan Robinson in the backfield that can do it in the running game and the passing game. And they're wondering, why isn't this offense more explosive?
Because they got to throw in the ball.
Yeah, you know, and, well, that's a good transition.
I was
here.
going to say I can only talk about Desmond Ridder so long. Can we talk about some good quarterback play?
Well, it's kind of funny you bring that up because there's been a lot of people. I know I was watching ESPN the other day, Mike Greenberg, and he was really hinting at the fact that Justin Fields, who's obviously from Atlanta, went to Harrison High School, would be like the perfect trade piece for the Falcons. And if you really feel that way, you came away really impressed last night as they played Washington last night, Thursday Night Football, and Justin Fields tossed 4 touchdown passes.
Looked great.
Well, I tell you what, he looked really great when he was throwing to DJ Moore because DJ Moore that guy had a night, didn't he?
Yeah. He got some rack, make the quarterback's numbers look better, especially on that last touchdown. Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean he was dominant the entire night. So,
should have had 5.
When you think about where Justin is at right now, I know I certainly have my opinion, so I'll wait till you get done talking about him. What's your take so far on Justin Fields, and where do you think this is going with him?
Well, first of all, he's not going to be traded to the Falcons. So I know that's a fun fantasy for Falcons fan, but that's never going to happen. I don't know why Chicago would do that. Right. But I've been impressed. After 2 weeks, I was worried. I was a Fields guy last year. I thought he was about to take the next step. I thought he was going to be the Jalen Hurts of the 2023 season. This dual threat quarterback that, had a really high ceiling. He was going to take the step. And then through 2 weeks, I was like, oh my God, what has happened in Chicago?
Right.
First of all, the play calling, and that's been, widely talked about in NFL circles, but the play calling was atrocious. I mean, when you go back, you look at the film, there were route combinations that made zero sense. And then on top of that, you had guys running wide open with, 10 yards of separation. I'm not exaggerating at time. 10 yards of separation, and Fields just staring at them and not making a throw. And I was like, I couldn't explain what I was seeing. It was such a drastic, terrible step backwards, and it looked like Fields was going to play his way out of the league by the end of the year, like no doubt. His numbers through the first 3 weeks: 173 yards a game passing average, 6 yards per attempt. That's terrible, and only 3 passing touchdowns.
Are they going to get it done?
And then the last 2 weeks have happened. Weeks 4 and 5, he's had 308 yards per game on average, 9.6 yards per attempt. That is elite. That is MVP numbers. 8 passing touchdowns. Oh, by the way, and he can run like Michael Vick. The last 2 games has been what you've been waiting, what you were hoping to see from Justin Fields, and now it's just a question of, was it because they were playing the Denver Broncos, who have probably the worst defense in the league, led by Sean Payton out there, and then the Commanders last night, whose defenses looked
not bad.
Not bad, like pretty average, but it was on a short week. So it'll be a question now, is this the Fields going forward, or is this just a blip on the radar, and is it going to go back to what we saw the first 3 weeks? I hope it's not. I hope this is the new Fields, especially because I have him in 2 fantasy football leagues.
Here we go. I knew there was an ulterior motive here.
I told you, I'm a believer. I like the kid.
Hey, look, I'd be more confident, too, if I looked on the other sidelines and I saw Sam Howell on the other side is playing quarterback for a team.
His numbers ended up not looking bad. He just missed on a lot of throws.
See, let me tell you a little bit about numbers sometimes. Sometimes they're misleading, right?
Well, he got a lot of garbage. I'm not going to tell you Sam Howell played a good game, but he was inches away on several throws from a good game. But if you're an NFL quarterback, you got to make those plays.
And that's the difference between your good quarterbacks and your bad quarterbacks.
Yes, I agree.
Because your really good quarterbacks, when they're not inches away, they make sure that the ball gets where it needs to go. One time, I saw a lot of Howell's throws last night. They were off. But anyway, back to Fields. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just really confusing when you look at, I don't know if they change things offensively. It seems, when all these people, all these different, analysts and everything, and they look at Justin Fields, the number one thing all of them say is, why isn't this offense putting him in a position to have better success? I mean, it seems pretty simple, right? You have a quarterback who's mobile. He can get out the pocket. He also has shown the ability to be able to throw the football. It seems like a no-brainer. It seems like he should be looking like Jalen Hurts does in that Eagles offense, but it doesn't look like that from week to week. So then people were kind of left to wonder why. Is it coaching? Is it Fields who's inconsistent?
I'll say this. The Chicago coaching staff called 2 design quarterback rushes through the first 2 weeks. Yeah. That's coaching malpractice. Say what you want about Fields. That is coaching malpractice. That's inexcusable.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a guy who's as versatile as Justin Fields is, he has the ability to run the football like he does. And like I say, when you look at Jalen Hurts and how he's used with the Eagles, I mean, I believe you should be seeing a lot of those same things with Justin Fields because he has a lot of those same abilities. Yeah. There's a reason he went so high in the first round of the NFL draft. He has the versatility. As good as versatility, he has as good of mobility as any quarterback in the National Football League right now. He's also shown the ability to be able to have big days passing like yesterday. So I think we as fans and we as the media too, we're just left to just wonder, why is this not more consistent? Why don't we see this sort of play? Why don't we see the versatile Justin Fields week in and week out? And so we wonder, is it coaching? However, this is now his second coaching staff, right? I mean, he was with Matt Nagy, who's with the he's back with the Chiefs now. Yeah. He didn't have a winning record as a head coach with the Bears.
No, he did not.
He was 34-31. Matt Nagy with the Bears.
You said he did have a winning record.
He had a winning record with the Bears. Matt Nagy did.
That just shocked me.
Took him to the playoffs twice. Yeah,
I guess earlier in his tenure there, things were better.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, he did some decent things as a head coach. So
his offense has never looked too good. I'll tell you that.
Right. So it just kind of leaves me wondering, like, okay, so is it Justin Fields who's inconsistent on this team? Is it him because he's been through 2 different head coachings now, 2 different systems? So you wonder, is it him that's the problem or him that's inconsistent? Or did he just get really 2 crap coaching staffs that really just don't have an idea how to use them? I don't know, but I think what we all know, even those of us who don't coach football, I think we have an idea of when you have a versatile, mobile quarterback that can throw the ball, in today's NFL, it's not real hard to find ways to be able to make him perform at his highest level of play, right? I mean, you throw some read options in, use your legs, keep the defense off balance. Jalen Hurts got a lot of money. he got a lot of money playing that way, you know. So it is kind of baffling as to why the Bears don't make him look more like some of those quarterbacks. But hey, maybe it's not as easy as we think.
Yeah, and they've looked good the last 2 weeks. Maybe we might be back on here 2 weeks from now. He's looked like this 2 more times, and we're like, oh my God, Fields could be an MVP candidate.
Right.
I mean,
that's how we were last year.
If he continues to put up numbers like this, he could be. You know, and then we all forget about weeks 1 through 3. We'll just have to see.
All right, so we're gonna step away from some football for a second here. We're gonna talk some Braves because
let's do it.
They begin their World Series push tomorrow against the Phillies, right here. Remember, that's a big series because it was the Phillies who knocked their road to the World Series off the tracks last year, as they really delivered an uppercut to the Braves in that series last year. And I know they shocked me. I don't know if they shocked you. And so,
no, I thought the Phillies were going to get swept in that series because they were coming out of the wild card series with the Cardinals, where they used Wheeler and Nola, and it's been a similar case this year. So I was like, okay, they're heading in against the Braves, not going to be able to use their 2 best pitchers. They're going to be, 3 games and done here.
Yeah.
And that did not happen last year. And it's setting up the same way as last year. I'm not saying the same thing is going to happen. I don't think the same thing is going to happen. But the Phillies are once again coming in out of the wild card series. They have used Wheeler. They have used Nola. They're not going to have their aces lined up with the Braves like they would hope. So the advantage goes to the Braves in that regard. Plus, you got home field.
So that's what I was wondering. I mean, I know you're so much more of a baseball guy. I like baseball, but I know baseball runs through your blood, man. So it looks to me, okay, just a casual baseball fan, that it seems like the Phillies kind of got hot the same way around the same time last year, right?
Yes.
It seems like they're really rolling the way they were last year. So I would think that would make Braves fans a little bit concerned.
I mean, yeah, I think any Braves fan who looks at this series and tells you he's not a little bit concerned is lying because it does feel so reminiscent of last year's NLDS.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more reasons to be optimistic this year if you're a Braves fan. One, this team's just better than last year's, which is hard to believe because last year's team was really good, but this one is a wagon.
For sure.
104 wins. I can't even remember the home run record they set, but more home runs than any team in MLB history. And when you hit more home runs than your opponent, you win 86% of the time. So you got to like them in that regard. They've got their pitchers matched up to go in this series. They're going to have their best 1 and 2 nights, 1 and 2 here at Truist. So I think there's a lot more reasons to be optimistic this year if you're a Braves fan, but no one is forgetting last year, including the Braves players. So I mean, I would hope they'd already be, ready to go, locked in for a playoff series, but that's going to be doubly so this year. And what I thought was interesting and what I thought was a really good idea, last year I think there was kind of this feeling that the Braves may have lost that series because they got the first round bye and they just sat around for 3-4 days doing nothing. This year, they did not do that. They got the first round bye, but they held simulated games against some Gwinnett Stripers players out at Truist each night in front of a crowd, tried to make everything as realistic as possible, give their guys some at-bats just to keep, that routine, that rhythm going into the playoffs. And I'm a real believer in that type of thing. I really do think that's going to pay dividends.
The big momentum, right?
Yes.
I mean, to me, I've seen more of these baseball series won by the team that has momentum than the team who even you look at as being the better, more well-rounded team, right? Because
it's all about who's hot.
Right, because I grew up a big-time baseball fan. I grew up a fan of the Cleveland Indians. You don't know how many times I watched the Indians have the better record than the team who they were playing in the playoffs, or they seem to be a better, more well-put-together team. But that team, it comes to mind right now. Okay, I'm going to reminisce for a second. 1996 Division Series, right?
I was 1 year old.
Really?
Go on.
Really?
Go on.
Really? That's what we're doing
I'm
now?
just letting you know. I'm not going to remember it. Tell me, because I wasn't there.
So I know you're not going to remember it. So the Indians that year had a big season. I believe they won like the most games in the American League. They were right there, them and the Yankees. And they played just an on-fire, motivated Baltimore Orioles team. And, man, it looked like those guys were going to run through a wall. Like, that was such a motivated team. And they beat the Indians that year. I believe it was 3-1 in the division series. And it really just shocked me because I never would have thought that was going to happen. And then it happened, it happened to them something similar a few years later, I believe in 99 with the Red Sox. So, yeah, I mean, watching that happen to the Braves last year, it just seemed like that Phillies team was just they were on a roll, man. Like they were just
felt like a team of
steamrolling.
destiny.
Yeah,
I mean, especially the way they got out of that Cardinal series before the Braves, where they
Woo.
were down, I think, to their final out, definitely losing in the bottom of the ninth, and ended up winning the game, and then had to come from behind win the next night as well. That was when you run into one of those teams, it's tough.
So, what's your prediction in this series? Then I had to put you on the hook for this.
I hate predictions, especially in baseball. They're so tough.
So hard, right?
I mean, it's hard not to pick the Braves. They are the better roster.
I agree.
I think they have better pitching. I think they definitely, not even I think, they do have better bats. They have home field. The pitching matchups lean in their favor. So everything says pick the Braves. It's baseball, so any weird thing can happen. But if I have to pick, I'm going to pick the Braves, and I wish this was a 7-game series because I would love to get 7 games of this.
Why is that always the go-to explanation when crazy things happen in baseball? That's baseball.
Because it is. You can. I mean, that's how big you can hit a 56-mile-per-hour blooper off the bat that just drops in front of the left fielder, and all of a sudden that's a 2-run double. And you can hit a screamer 117 off the bat right to the shortstop, and it's an out. It's just the luck.
Hey man, tell me about it. I mean, that's just like I say. I've seen some of the craziest things happen. I mean, just when you look at baseball and these baseball playoffs, and look. I think when you look at things this year, how they've lined up, don't we all want to see the Dodgers against the Braves in the next round? I mean, isn't that the series we all want to see?
I mean, if you're a Braves fan, you probably don't because the Dodgers are a good team. But
sure.
I think the Braves just want to get to the next round.
Look, in order to beat a man, you got to beat the man, right? I mean, so if you truly feel like you're the best team, if you truly feel like you're the greatest, you don't fear anybody who you may play. If you're the Braves right now and you feel like you're the best team, you shouldn't look at the Phillies, you shouldn't look at the Dodgers, you shouldn't look at whoever comes out the American League with any bit of intimidation because you feel like you're the best.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the Braves shouldn't care who they play because they're going to be the better team in that series. If you're a fan, you want the easiest road possible, but I don't think you're worried about anybody.
Oh, who wants the easiest road? We don't want that. I mean,
championship's a championship.
We want tragedy, not tragedy, but we want the feeling of triumph when it's all over, man. I mean, that's But speaking of easy routes, right? No.
I was gonna say make this transition. I'm curious to see where this is going.
I'm not going to do that to UGA. So tomorrow they're back at home again. Isn't this like their 37th home game of the season?
Dude,
so
they
far?
get more home games. I think they may have had more home games last year than the Atlanta Hawks. That's what it feels like sometimes. It's like every time I turn around, it's either a home game or a neutral site game that's like an hour away from Athens. They play down in Jacksonville. The SEC championship is an hour away from Athens in Atlanta. They stay close to home.
They've only hit the road one time this year. It was kind of crazy, right?
That is.
So they're back at home tomorrow, 7 p.m. start, right? 7 p.m. start. They'll be going against Kentucky, a very surprising Kentucky team so far right now.
Yeah.
They're undefeated.
Stoops got those boys playing.
Stoops has got them playing. You know where Stoops is from, right? Northeast Ohio. That's where I'm from.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Stoops. The Stoops brothers, that's a Northeast Ohio family.
Northeast Ohio legend, or
big time.
legends.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so when you look at the SEC, man, they're right there. They're 5-0 in the SEC, just like UGA is. And that game last week that their running back Ray Davis put up against Florida,
He ran
my
all
man went for
over
280.
them.
He hung 280 on Florida. So
4 touchdowns.
yeah, so, obviously, when you look at UGA and their defense, how do you think they'll hold up against that attack?
I mean, Georgia is known for their defense. That's been Kirby's staple ever since he got here. But Jalen Carter is no longer on that defensive line. He's on the Eagles' defensive line.
Wreaking havoc, too.
Yeah, he looks good. He looks really good. He's my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Good pick.
But I don't know, man. The way they played against Auburn last week, I don't have the number in front of me. One thing I didn't write down on my notepad, but
no, you're good.
Auburn ran all over them. And granted, they weren't trying to throw the ball at all. They had Army's playbook out there.
Yeah.
But they were running at will for a majority of that game. So Georgia really needs to tighten that up because if they don't, Kentucky could have a field day. And then another note, Kentucky has gotten off to a hot start in just about every game this year.
Yeah.
I think they've outscored – actually, I did write that one down. They outscored their SEC opponents this year 37-0 in the first quarter. Meanwhile, Georgia, we've seen their first quarters, really their first halves.
Been ugly.
They have had ugly, slow starts. You can't do that against this Kentucky team. This Kentucky team is dangerous. You have to jump up on them quickly.
I think given the fact that they're at home and they'll have a lot of the home field momentum with them tomorrow, I do think UGA wins this game. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if the game was a lot like the South Carolina game, where they kind of started slow and South Carolina jumped out on them and then they eventually chased them down. Because it seems like when you're going against UGA's defense, you want to be able to get to them early. It seems like you want to be able to jump on them pretty early in that game. And that's going to be your chance, because once they settle down, once they settle into the game, they become a lot harder to score on. And especially when they're at home, the fans get behind them. Everybody starts going crazy. Your quarterback and your offense loses all their faculties and everything, and then they got you. Now it's over. So we're going to see just how not just talented Kentucky is, but we're going to see what kind of poise they have. Playing at UGA tomorrow too, because we all know that crowd out there in Athens could get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I mean, you got two 5-0 SEC teams facing off between the hedges. Like that's as good as it gets. So it's going to be a great game. I'm excited to watch it. I'll be producing our SEC wrap-up show at the same time here at the station. We like to have those after Dogs games. CBS schedule didn't work out the way this week, so we'll be going up against the Dogs, which won't necessarily be fun. But the second that show's over at 8 o'clock, I'm gonna go somewhere and watch the end of this one, because it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah,
SEC wrap-up show. We always work, Brett. You work so hard on that show the entire week, and we work on it together. And it's always a lot of fun, especially SEC. It's just Saturdays when you walk in, man, it just has a different energy, doesn't it? It's just a different buzz in this place and everywhere. So when those Saturdays start, tomorrow, UGA versus Kentucky, 7 p.m., and then the SEC wrap-up show right here on CBS at 7 p.m. But, real quick here, so we're going to get to a high schooler, Julian Lewis.
Talk about the next Caleb Williams.
Maybe the next Caleb Williams for Carrollton High School. He has this career path sort of put together in a great way already. Our own Bailey Burmaster went out there, sat down with Julian, and he's a very interesting young man, I promise you.
Juju wants to go that way, and he will, and Odom's going to go up. He's going to get it for a touchdown.
How we're going to make this money and all that stuff, and that's why we wanted NILs to get passed, but I'm just trying to keep the main thing the main thing.
And the main thing is a cliche as old as time: faith, family, and football. Unfortunately, this isn't small-town football anymore, and Lewis is not an age-old recruit. Times are very different.
We can say that I'm a kid and do all that stuff, but like when the NILs got passed and money, I mean, it turns into a job. I drove from Hiram to Atlanta every night and got home at 10:30 every school night and stuff, but I mean, it kind of just got serious when the recruitment and stuff started, and now money is involved. It's to a point where you can change your whole family's life. I mean, it definitely gets deeper.
NIL is a win for the high school athletes, but that's not the priority. Winning on Fridays is. And as a freshman, even Juju had his reality checks.
Not a lot of people have to lead a team of 18-year-olds when they're 14 and then get called boo-boo after they lose the state championship game by 35, but I mean, that's just a part of life, and it's the life I chose.
The pro-style QB has over 1,000 passing yards already this season, with 18 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's on the hunt for a ring, and in a few years, he will join the Trojan family and Lincoln Riley's air raid offense.
3 Heisman Trophy winners, 2 first overall picks, about to be a 3rd one. I mean, it's something. I mean, everybody sees it. That's why you couldn't really question my motives to pick USC.
Juju doesn't shy away from the pressure or the stress of it all. He's 16, a sophomore in high school, and should be worrying about an algebra test, but instead, he's the youngest football player to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
It's a little weird. I mean, sometimes it does get a little stressful, but I mean, I chose this.
Wildly enough, it's all just the beginning of his story.
I'm just a blessed individual. I mean, I'm grateful for everything that's going on right now.
That Julian seems like to be a young kid that has his life and his path together already. I mean, he's thinking NIL and money and going to go play for Lincoln Riley. I mean, man, I wish I had my life together that much when I was in high school.
When I was listening to him talk, I didn't know who he was before this. I don't really keep up with the high school recruiting scene. I was like, okay, this kid's a senior, like 18 years old. And then, at one point he says 16. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
like,
man.
This kid has a great head on his shoulders for being 16 years old. I hope he does great things.
Could you imagine? I mean, just all that. Wow, I mean, that's really great. So, Brett, man, this has been a lot of fun here doing Sports Tonight on a Friday. We got to do this again sometime.
Maybe. We'll see. I'm not far if you ever need me.
All right, like I
Let
said,
me know.
perfect. We're gonna get out of here and let you enjoy the rest of your Friday. But remember, don't forget, watch the SEC wrap-up show tomorrow on CBS right after the SEC game. It's a football Saturday. Everybody's gonna be excited. We're out of here. Go Dogs!
See y'all
later.